Hello, and welcome to this webinar about dynamic assessment. We are the Finnish team in an Erasmus Plus project called Playing Beyond CLIL that is co-funded by the European Union. My name is Kaisa.
Hello, my name is Kauko.
Hi everyone, I'm Nina.
Besides us, there are colleagues from Germany, Spain, and the UK in this project. In this webinar, we will first walk you through the main principles of dynamic assessment and then show you in practice how it works. You will also get to see two creative learning events, or Show What You Know events, as we call them. The Show What You Know events in this webinar are videos filmed by Nina's 9th grade students last spring. If you want more information about the Show What You Know event itself, or the guiding principles behind Playing Beyond CLIL, such as the pluraliteracies approach, languaging, or leap learning, please check out our project's other webinars on the Playing Beyond CLIL website. During this webinar, we will also want you to get active, so we have 2 short sessions when we will divide you into small groups in the breakout rooms, so you can also discuss dynamic assessment and share your ideas and experiences. All right, we will get started with this slide that shows how assessment is integrated into the Show What You Know events from start to finish. Both formative assessment during learning and studying and summative assessment at the end of the learning event can be dynamic. Assessment is an integral part of the learning process as it enables learners and teachers to gauge the extent of a learner's progression and depth of understanding. Formative assessment enables learners to demonstrate progression in their understanding as it happens and progression in their skills as they develop. At the same time, it provides practical feedback to the teacher and guides teachers and learners' next steps. Summative assessment is used to give an appraisal mark or a grade, usually at the end of a sequence of learning or at the end of a course. And what makes assessment dynamic? Here are some key principles. Dynamic assessment monitors learners' progression, so both the learner and the teacher know where the learner is and what the learner needs for going forward. Dynamic assessment also supports deep learning and not merely memorization of information. It focuses on knowledge building. This is also associated with the type of tasks and assignments that the learners are given. Dynamic assessment takes place throughout the learning process where scaffolding, feedback, and feed-forward are deeply integrated. In Show What You Know learning events, formative assessment is ongoing through the different stages of designing, developing, and performing the learning event. Summative assessment focuses on the learner performance during the actual Show What You Know event. Dynamic assessment is based on the Russian psychologist Lev Vygotsky's idea of functioning in the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development is the distance that is between a learner's current knowledge and skill level and the learner's potential development level. The learner can function in that zone with well-timed support or scaffolding, as it is often called. With well-timed scaffolding, the learner can manage a task that is a bit higher than their current skill and knowledge level. It can be either a teacher or a more skilled peer who can give the support during the learning process. Interactive dynamic assessment is constructed as a dialogic process where the activity or a task is guided by instructions, questions, and support in the actual ongoing process during a lesson. It is in these moments that the teacher can also observe how much support the learner needs to successfully complete a task. The level of support can be adjusted according to learners' needs and developmental level. Dynamic assessment is at the core of the Show What You Know learning events used in the Playing Beyond CLIL project. The Show What You Know learning events maximize individual learner potential and at the same time make visible learner strengths and areas for further focus. Dynamic assessment involves highly interactive and process-oriented ways that enable learners to demonstrate in creative ways the knowledge and content they have learned and the skills and literacies they have developed and can use. Dynamic assessment challenges traditional classroom interactions by demanding that teaching and assessment should not be distinct undertakings, but they must be integrated in process-oriented teaching pedagogies. Formative assessment is made visible by all parties. Teachers give feedback to learners, but learners themselves are active agents and assess their own work and also give feedback to their peers. Through dynamic assessment, both teacher and learners can understand the learner's abilities by actively supporting their ongoing progression.
Now we will move on to the section of our webinar where you get to see a real Show What You Know event that was carried out with real school students. I will go over the steps that include introduction to the task and the various stages that the learners participated in when preparing for the Show What You Know that they filmed. The Show What You Know event ended in a feedback session. Number 1. The overall topic and objective of the Show What You Know was to become more familiar with the Finnish national epic Kalevala and make a video of an event, character or plot in the epic. Number 2. The learners show their current knowledge about Kalevala when they take places on a competence segment. I will explain about this initial diagnostic assessment and the forming of groups little more with another slide. The learners completed this task in small groups. Number 5. As a teacher, I gave a presentation where I explained the structure, storyline, and main characters of Kalevala, using a visual map and a course book. I asked the learners to show if they understand by pointing up or down with their thumbs. Number 6. The learners had homework to find out more about a chosen topic by researching the topic on the internet, in the course book, or another source literature. Number 7. I will tell you shortly how we created assessment criteria together. Then the learners engaged in the process of creating the video, and afterwards we had a feedback session that we will also describe in more detail later. So, first the learners take places on a competence segment according to how well they know the national epic Kalevala. One end of the room signifies that a learner knows very little about Kalevala, and the other end of the room signifies that the learner knows very much about Kalevala. The learners talk with the pairs next to them about Kalevala's main characters, plot, language, meanings, impacts to culture, where we see Kalevala today, and so on. They are free to change places if they notice that it wasn't the right spot for them. For example, they knew more or less than they realized before. After that, the teacher chooses the groups of 4 or 5 learners from different parts of the competence segment as evenly as possible. For example, the teacher could form the red group by selecting the learners marked with red stars. A learner may change groups, but only if they have a valid reason for it, and they have to consult the teacher about it. Here you can see the learners in action on the competence segment.
Now we will take a look at the assessment rubric that was created in this Playing Beyond CLIL project for the Show What You Know process and event. More detailed descriptions of the rubric can be found on the project website and in other webinars created in the project. We have purposely left the rubric so that it is not completely filled out in every box, as we know that many teachers and students can find it daunting if a task requires too much detail to even get started. On the left side of the rubric, you can see the 4 categories that are key principles in the playing beyond CLIL: concepts, language, enactment, and engagement. The student's task is to produce a short video as a Show What You Know event. The activities and assessment practices for all the key principles have been divided into the different columns for task sequence 1, 2, and 3, performance, and reflection and feedback. For example, in task sequence 1, in small groups, the student chose a particular event, a character, or a plot that they wanted to learn more about and create the Show What You Know video. The students could, for instance, choose one of the main events of Kalevala and describe a story that tells of the changes and events that happen to main character and how these events influence relations between the main character and minor characters. This sequence includes searching for and choosing the right terminology and language for the particular event. This is aided by the teacher's previous presentation and inquiry-based learning done by the students in task sequence 2. When the first steps will be done by contributing with own ideas and suggestions of the students, the essential terminology will be trained and the chosen event of Kalevala starts to be formed. The reflection, feedback, and feed-forward column specify the different assessment criteria in question format. Scaffolding and dynamic formative feedback take place throughout the process in the different task sequences when the students collaborate together and consult with the teacher when needed. First, we consider the key principle of concepts. In these kinds of tasks, the accomplishments often depend on the starting point, which here is the chosen story and the chosen type of Show What You Know event. It matters also how inspiring the story happens to be to the group of students. The outcome also depends on the quality of cooperation and how enthusiastic the students are. In this project, learning takes place throughout the project before the recording of videos, already during the different task sequences of setting the scene, building and prioritizing and practicing and refining. Then we move on to language. Languaging of the events and characters of the chosen Kalevala story develops during the process of carrying out the different task sequences and finally filming the Show What You Know video. This all is made possible by the dynamic interaction between the students and the teacher, and it needs the creative freedom and autonomy, which is part of this type of project. The reflection, feedback, and assessment on the key principle of enactment are here related to how well the students succeed with the Show What You Know event overall, and how well they immerse themselves in the different roles that are needed in the performance. For the key principle of engagement, students' active participation shows in the ways they contribute their own ideas, use their own creativity, support each other in the process, and learn from each other. After the videos are finished, students will watch each other's videos and give and receive feedback in self-assessment and peer assessment.
The learners know that they will receive feedback from their peers as well as from the teacher. I asked from the groups what should be the objectives and assessment criteria, 3 main things, what they expect from the Show What You Know performances. Both groups said that the given time is an essential starting point for equal assessment. Other criteria for the videos were original in style, informative and/or funny, piques your interest, and convincing performances. In Finland, most schools have 45-minute lessons, so planning and filming were fit to be done during one lesson. Learners in small groups started making a plan for the video, and they explained it to the teacher. Time for that is 15 minutes. Filming has to be done in 20 minutes and shown to the teacher 10 minutes. The first video is about Sampo, a magical mill in Kalevala. Sampo is the strongest motif in the epic. It's recurrent in the epic almost all the way from the beginning till the end. Everybody wants Sampo for oneself. The second video is about a man named Kullervo, and it's the most tragic story of Kalevala. Both performances can be watched as a Show What You Know documentary. The first one is also like an image theater performance.
Seppo Ilmarinen builds the Sampo, a magical mill. It's given to Louhi as an exchange for her daughter. Louhi hides the Sampo. Väinämöinen, Ilmarinen and Lemminkäinen go to steal the Sampo back. While Väinämöinen enchants Pohjola to sleep, they take the Sampo. Louhi follows the men and tries to take it back. Sampo is destroyed.
Kullervo is an interesting character in our Finnish folklore Kalevala. Kullervo ends up as an orphan and as a slave to his uncle because of some family drama. He sucks at everything he does. He is eventually sold to Ilmarinen. The wife of Ilmarinen bakes a rock inside Kullervo's bread, which makes him so mad that he curses the wife to death. Kullervo has to flee because he just killed the wife of Ilmarinen. Kullervo finds his long-lost family, which he thought to be dead. For a while he is happy, but because he sucks at everything, he is sent on a trading trip. On his way, Kullervo sleeps with a young woman. Later they find out that they are brother and sister, and then the sister kills herself by drowning. After returning home, Kullervo swears to revenge. He kills his uncle. After the revenge, he finds his parents dead, and then he proceeds to kill himself. What a tragic story.
After making the videos, the learners completed self and peer assessment, and all videos were watched together with the whole group. Feedback was written down by every learner, and the group commented on the feedback they received after they read them. The learners were given guided questions for the self and peer assessment. You can read these questions on the screen. As the teacher, I was involved in giving feedback throughout the whole process of planning and making the videos and in assessing the final products. Teachers' job in assessment is much aided by seeing the learners in action and talking about what they have done and what they have learned. Dynamic assessment is thus carried out in an interactive, dialogic, and transparent process.
And what were the learner experiences from the So What You Know event? First, it was nice for the students to participate in this project because it was interesting and fun. Secondly, students found it important that they could fulfill the task although the schedule was tight and hectic. Students could feel proud of themselves when they could see the final product and share it with peers. It was also important that there was an atmosphere of cooperation and support. One could always ask someone if any problems came up. In this task, students were active agents. It was possible to use your own skills independently, and this enabled creative solutions in different stages of the process. Students first discussed the assessment with the teacher, and after that, they made goals for the project by themselves. This autonomy gave them enthusiasm, which supported them throughout the project and when completing self and peer assessment. Students also received scaffolding throughout the project when needed. Students were active agents in solving any problems with others, giving and getting feedback, and answering questions that were raised by the students and the teacher. Perhaps you noticed that one of the students' assessment criteria was that the final product would be from 2 to 5 minutes. Well, the videos ended up being about 1 minute long or less. It is difficult to know what the final product will be like when you start a new type of task. However, the students were very pleased with their contributions, and so are we.